nice, because I know half of you, which is wonderful. So the point of this, or who am I? Some of you know me. So I like going off on big crazy adventures, but in between that, to try and keep myself sane, I have to work and earn some money. And so I started to look for things that I could do around my job and around the 9 to 5, and it's quite difficult to do. But I went to this talk by this guy. That's me there. I went to a talk by a guy called Alistair Humphreys. Who's heard of Alistair Humphreys? Anyone? Yeah, you guys. Yes, you have. And he's got this idea of microadventures, which some of you might have heard of, which is all about living for the 5 to 9 rather than the 9 to 5, he says, because there are so many hours in your day. Actually, you think that the evenings just go like that, and from 5 o'clock at night until 9 o'clock the next morning, there's actually an awful lot of time there that you can use if you're trying to fit a little bit of adventure into your life. So he wrote this amazing book called Microadventures, and I went to one of his talks in June. And at this talk, he was talking about all the amazing places you could go on little micro-adventures and go for weekends. And he said how difficult it is to find that and do that in London. And I sat there and thought, oh, come on, he's done it, but he was commenting on how difficult it was. And I thought, I'm quite keen to prove a point. And there are loads and loads of people living in London that have to be for work or for other reasons, and because it's an awesome city. And surely there must be adventurous things for us to do and ways to get out and escape and feel like we're having an adventure as well as living a semi-normal life. So that was my plan. So this is my friend Paddy, by the way, who forgot his camping mat that night, so he made a bed of fern leaves, which I thought was quite inventive, but he was happy about it. So I set myself this challenge. I thought, what about if we spend the next 6 weeks sleeping out in every single county around Greater London, and then finish with a sleep out in Greater London itself. So the principal idea of a micro-adventure is to leave your desk, shut down your laptop at 5, 6 o'clock, hop on a train, a bike, bus, walk, anything you can, get out of London, hopefully outside the M25, and then sleep on a hilltop, dunk in a river, fire up a campfire, and then get back to your desk the next morning with no one really knowing what's happened except you. So that is the plan. Yeah, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. Awesome. Come with me on this journey. So that was the plan. So I thought, right, well, first of all, this was really, really good because A, it taught me what all the counties around London were, because I didn't know. I also didn't realise, and this might be blonde, Middlesex is not a county. I didn't realise that. See, look, raised eyebrows. You didn't know that either, right? It's a postal county. So I read all up on Wikipedia about how Middlesex is just a... Yeah, exactly. So this was great. So point one, I'd already learned something before I'd even gone anywhere, which was amazing. And then so I set out about looking for places that I could sleep out in these counties, and I thought, well, which one should we do first? And I thought, right, I'll go somewhere where I know as a rower, my rowing roots, is beautiful and outdoors. So we started with Berkshire, actually. And I know Henley is on the kind of Berkshire-Bucks border, but we definitely slept in Berkshire. So this was June, so we started on June the 4th. So what I did was I called up what I thought, I had quite a small group of semi-adventurous, nutty, crazy friends at that point, which has expanded rapidly, but I called them up and I managed to get 12 of them to agree to come down to Henley on a Wednesday night after work and to come and sleep in a wood. And that was basically the plan. I think the fact that even more than 2 people were up for doing that was quite impressive. So this is, does anyone know where that is in Henley? See, this is awesome. A field? It's a field, yeah, well, yeah. So the river's just down here. So, you know, if you walk up from, if Remnant Woods are, we've just come out of the woods basically, so that's a huge poppy field that I didn't even know was there. And this for me was the start of realising that there are places that I've been, you know, 10, 15 times, year in, year out, and I've never actually looked at them in the way I had when I went to do my first little recce and try and find a spot to sleep out. So that started to set in my mind that that's what these kind of little adventures are about. They're about seeing places that you pass by every single day, but seeing them in a different light and actually going, look how beautiful that poppy field is, and getting a bit hippie on it. So these are the people that we managed to get together. So yeah, we've got 12 of us, and we decided that first of all I started by going to a pub, because I thought, well, that's a good thing, because then we can have a pub dinner and pretend it's all going to be very, very normal and nothing untoward is going to happen. So once we left the pub, we took a walk about 10 minutes out. It was about 10:30 at night, it was quite warm, and we went and slept in Remnant Woods. So I'd done a little bit of a recce beforehand. I mean, everyone was really up for it. There was one guy, this guy here, Taryn, who thought he was being really, really manly, and he only brought with him a bin liner to sleep on and just some pants and a t-shirt. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I heard this. And I was like, Taryn, you okay? I'm so cold. And so the only thing I had that I could possibly donate him was my buff. So I threw him my buff and he put it around his head and was still there, like, freezing in the morning. But he pretended it didn't happen in the morning as well. But Jo, this one, she baked banana bread and we were just giggling like school children. And basically, you know, we had people there from age 20, 25 all the way up to mid to late 30s, and we just were behaving like children. And it was wonderful. And then in the morning, so we got up at about 5 o'clock in the morning and then went for a little dunk in the river in our pants. As some of the rowers actually from Upper Thames were coming down to the banks to go rowing, and we were a little bit rowdy. But that was the view at 5 o'clock in the morning. And again, I just thought, why would I ever stand at Henley at 5 in the morning? Normally probably getting in a boat back in the day, but just look at this, it's like all the mist was hanging in the valley and you just couldn't hear anything except all little natural sounds, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So that set it off on the right foot. Next up, we went to Surrey, my home county, and I got a little bit overexcited in Surrey because I started to pick up a bit of momentum, more people had been finding out about it, and I had a group that split, and half of them could do Tuesday and half of them could do Wednesday in the week, so I thought, well, I'll just go and sleep out 2 nights in the week, that's fine. So on the first night, I met my brother and this guy called Super Cycling Man, who's not a real superhero, he just wears pants over his normal clothing. We met at Richmond Park, and we rode our bikes out for an hour and a half out to... Does anyone else here cycle? You cycle, I know you cycle, you cycle as well, yeah.
Will as well.
Yes, you know Will as well, there you go. Do you recognise those pants? That's why, isn't it? So we went out to East Clandon, and there's a pub there called the Queen's Head, which does really, really nice food. Went into the Queen's Head, sat down, had a really nice meal, and then we cycled up to Staple Lane, which is, again, a place that I've gone past so many times on my Box Hill rides, and every time I go up the lane and I've caught my breath, I look back and I was thinking, oh, it's such a nice view. So I had it in mind as somewhere to go. And when we got to the top of it, this is the view. So that was our morning view. So you can see all the way across London, and that's literally the road that I've gone past when I cycle is just here. You've probably cycled it a million times, but it's just a footpath. And when you start to do these little adventures, you start to look out for things like small little footpath signs and anywhere that takes you off the road. And that's 5 minutes off the road, and it was just absolutely beautiful. The funny thing that happened on that trip was we went into the woods, and we were talking, trying to be really, really quiet because we weren't actually that far from some farmhouses. And everyone was, you know, trying to be careful at opening things. And then suddenly my iPhone went off really, really loudly. And I answered it, and it was my mum. And basically what had happened was I'd left my phone at the pub, so I'd had to go back down the hill to pick it up. Meanwhile, the pub had called her. She thought I'd been abducted. So she just called me to check that I was all right. And I told her I was fine. I was sleeping in the wood with 2 strange boys, one of whom was my brother, so that was all right. So yeah, that was the morning view, which I thought was pretty cool, to sit there with a cup of coffee and a croissant, just watching the sun come up. And if you give yourself a good half an hour, it's half an hour, you try and get out of bed earlier at home and it just doesn't happen. But the thing about waking up in the outdoors is the natural sounds start to wake you up, or badgers trying to have sex in the night or something. But all the noises are very, very different, and it's so much easier to just get yourself out of bed. And at first it takes a little bit of getting used to, but actually once you get used to it, you have the best night's sleep because you're breathing in fresh air all the time, and you wake up through natural light, so it's actually a really, really cool thing. So this was Surrey Part 2, so this was the following night. So yeah, Tuesday night went and slept out in the woods, went to work, still had my gear with me, then went straight to Guildford on the Wednesday night, met some people in a pub. And this was it normally ends up being about half people that I know, and then half people that have just found out through Twitter and Facebook and have just said, oh yeah, I'll come and give it a go. And it seems that people just need a little bit of a nudge. So how many people here have done like a camp out without a tent? Yeah, cool, good number of you, but I think it's just easier if you've got someone there doing it, and most people just need a nudge and then they absolutely love it. You'll see some happy faces after this. But this is a place called St Martha's Hill, which is a 3-mile walk from Guildford train station, so an hour's walk. And this is what it looks like. So there's a nice church up there. It is National Trust land, but we actually just found somewhere. We were a bit left wanting for somewhere to camp because we try and stay off the road and out of view and early morning dog walkers. But we just gave up on this one and just slept in the middle of the path. Which, to be honest, the fact is you're up there at 10 o'clock at night and you're gone by 5:30 in the morning if it's the middle of the summer. So no one knows you're there. You just have to get over the initial fear of this is really strange. I'm sleeping out, you know, and someone could come wandering by. But that was where Paddy made his little fern bed. And he actually, we had to drag him out of bed in the morning, he wouldn't get up. He was really comfortable. So this is one of my favourite ones. This is Hertfordshire. So has anyone been to Ivinghoe Beacon? Recognise that? You have, yes. Do you recognise this? So this is just past Ivinghoe Beacon. So as the weeks went by, I started to think, do you know what's really sad about going to the pub? A, it's awesome because you've got a good supply of whiskey and brandy, which is good if it's Wednesdays, because we started Whiskey Wednesdays. But it's not great because you miss the sunsets. And in some places, like St Martha's Hill, the sunrise was through the trees and I couldn't see it, and yet it would have been an amazing sunset. So what we started doing was taking picnics up. So we'd meet at a train station, everyone would have their little shopping bags with them, and then we'd hike up the hill for an hour, and we'd go and sit and watch the sun go down and eat a picnic. And that one we just retreated into the woods about sort of half an hour away back towards the train station. But I thought that was pretty spectacular sunset as far as time goes. Next up was Kent, and this one was a bit of an educational trip because we went to Ainsford, which there are some Roman villas there, so we learned all about the Roman villas. And as the weeks went on and my emails started going out, there started to be a bit more educational content in there. You know, it became a little bit like lesson plans, but I thought that was kind of the point of it as well, that all these places, the person who suggested Ainsford to me was actually Al Humphreys himself, and he said, oh, you do know there's some Roman villas there? I had no idea. So it's things like that that just, I think, encourage you to learn a little bit more about what's around you, and actually you think, oh, you know, you have to go to other places, but we've got so much history and stuff on our doorstep. So this was great. And we had a kind of a half and half on this one, so some people wanted to cycle out, some of us got the train, some of us arrived by taxi, someone ended up running there, and then this was 6:30 in the morning. Will, he looks like he's got boobs. That's pure peck, obviously. 6:30 in the morning, he decided that we were on our way back to the station, and there's this wonderful little brook that goes through Ainsford town. And what you can't see out of shot is actually there are houses just here. So it was 6:30 in the morning, and yes, us as fully grown adults blew up his camping mat and went surfing. And there were some net curtains twitching. But that was great fun. The next one, and this is actually one of my favourite, was Essex. I thought, oh my gosh, where am I going to go in Essex? And I looked at the map and I thought, well, there's a seaside in Essex, like that has to be cool. And then we got down there, and actually it's a lot of mud flats and we couldn't quite get into the sea. I had these really romantic notions of going for an evening dip or a morning dip, but it was those ones that you might see in 999, you know, where Michael Burke comes on and they're stuck up to their face in the mud. So we didn't go in, we just thought we'd go and sleep. But we found this place called Hadley Castle. Has anyone been to Hadley Castle? Okay, it's really, really cool. So you get the train to Leigh-on-Sea from Fenchurch Street Station, takes you 38 minutes, costs you about £9, and then it's a 10-15 minute walk from the station, and there's this beautiful castle, just the old ruins of a castle there, and then you can see the whole skyline and all the sea, and we pitched up just on the slope below the castle, and you can watch all of the commuter trains go in and out of London, which I thought was quite cool, quite memorable. And my favourite thing about this is that there's actually an A road just behind, and what happens is you fall asleep there, no one can see you because you're just out of view from the castle, and there's a road further down here, but no one can see you. But what happens as you fall asleep is the noise of the A road goes down, and then the noise of all the birds and the trees and everything comes up, so it's like a little nature DJ going on. And then as you wake up in the morning, the same thing happens in reverse, so the cars start to wake up, the planes go overhead, the trains start coming back. And I just thought that was cool because I'd never taken the time to actually hear that, which again sounds really hippie, but I don't care because it's awesome. So that was our view in the morning. So that was at about 4:30. The sun came up really early that morning, and Russell, who's this one here, he gets really overexcited, and it was literally 2 minutes to 4, and he's screaming, "Morning!" too early. But again, I was back at my desk by 8 o'clock, and my boss was like, well, you're in early Mcnuff, things to do. I woke up at 4 on a hillside somewhere. But that one I've actually been back to again, because it's so easy, it's so cheap to get there. There are some good pubs if you want, nearby in Leigh-on-Sea, but also, what was interesting, the second time we went back, we actually camped right next to the castle, and we had a completely different experience. So we were probably about 100 metres away from where we were there, and it was really misty. There were loads of teenagers up there. Someone came and disturbed us at midnight. But I think that was because we were kind of in view and we were at the place where all the kids go and make out, whereas this one we were a little bit more out of view. But I just thought it was interesting that you could go back to the same place and have a completely different experience. So that's it in the morning. So we've been around all the counties, and then I thought, well, we've got to do Greater London as well. So by this point it picked up a little bit of momentum. So we managed to get 40 people to come down to a London pub, who were interested at least in the idea of doing this and finding something adventurous to do outside their daily lives. We managed to convert, such a marketer, 19 of those people to sleep out around London. And because you know, I think you have to be a little bit more careful, a bit realistic in Greater London, we actually split up into groups of about 3 or 4. I think there may have been 5 in one group. And we went to Richmond Park, Primrose Hill, Hampstead Heath, Alexandra Park. I think that was it in the end. And yeah, so sleeping out in Greater London is a very, very different experience to going just beyond it, but we still did it, and the fact is, it's still beautiful. What I thought was really funny was when I came out the pub and I'd given everyone their destinations and where they had to go to, they were all huddled around Google Maps, and I just thought this is some HR department's absolute dream that they would dribble over this. That these guys, they didn't know each other, and they were all coming together, getting really excited. And what was great about it was because everyone's on Twitter and Facebook, we split off into all our locations and everyone's pictures from the other places were coming through, so you kind of felt like you were having 5 different adventures at once, which I thought was a wonderful way just to get to know your own city. And I'd never been to Alexandra Park. I think I'd been to inside Ali Pali, but I'd never wandered down and through it, and I just remembered when I went to Ali Pali there was an amazing view up there. So that's where we ended up. This is what happened on Hampstead Heath. So they took basically a mobile wine shop up there. And it was just funny to see what was happening in all the different locations, because we were in Ali Pali and we had, I think one of the guys had maybe a can of Strongbow, I had my hot chocolate. We were actually waiting for the man throwing up in the bushes to our left and the 15-year-old trying to make out to our right to actually go to bed. It was midnight on a Wednesday, and kids, haven't you got homes to go to? But these guys were having a whale of a time, and they actually went swimming in the morning as well in the Hampstead Ponds. This was from Primrose Hill, so that was the night from Primrose Hill, which, you know, again, how often do you actually take the time to look at the city? I know every time you walk over Waterloo Bridge, you go, oh, London, I love it so much, so beautiful. But you know, I think to see it a little bit from afar, and just to take the time and stop, and you know, that was their view for the night. That was it. That was what they looked at every time they opened their eyes and took the time to sit up. So I thought that was pretty cool. This was the sunrise from Primrose Hill. So fact is, you know, you're in urban London, but it's still beautiful, and you've still managed to see a sunrise rather than sitting in your bed in the morning. So that's on Hampstead Heath. I think that looks like an Abercrombie and Fitch advert. Yeah. I can't believe that's Hampstead Heath. It's just ridiculous, and I love you can see the little London skyline in the background there. Yeah, so that was so the Greater London one really was just to prove a point. It's not ideal to try and sleep out within the M25, but the fact is it can be done. And in Ali Pali, when we actually went to sleep, all we had was probably, we went into there's a little bit of tree growth, and we went in there, and we probably were only about 10-15 metres away from paths and things, but yet as soon as you're out of view, you could be anywhere really. And it was such a success that we just thought, well, let's carry on. And by this point I had a list of about 70 people that were all emailing me and saying, yeah, I've heard about your crazy sleeping in bushes with strangers, can I come along? And so we just kept going. So I wanted to experiment with different methods of transport out of London, because we'd done cycling, we'd done trains, we'd gone out to the Chilterns loads, and I thought, what about the Oxford Tube? You know, how about that? So one night we met at Victoria, and all of us lot got the Oxford Tube 40 minutes out to Lucknow. You basically get off at the side of the motorway and then just turn and walk up onto the Ridgeway. And we found this nice little, I'll admit, it doesn't always go to plan. We were looking for this hill and we couldn't quite get there, and we got a little bit lost and it was getting dark, so we settled on this lovely field here. And this was us in the morning. What you can't see is that there's a queue of about 20 commuters in front of us, and we literally just sort of emerged out the bush with all our backpacks on, and they're drinking their coffee, being very serious. And then I don't know if has anyone got the tube from Oxford into London in the morning? Yeah, it's very quiet and very serious. And we're there, you know, wetting ourselves laughing about things that happened the night before, or someone's fallen asleep because they didn't get quite a good night's sleep and stuff like that. And I just thought it was such a stark contrast. But we were all back at our desks on time, so It was a success. And then we just carried on going as well. So this is actually the Uffington White Horse. Has anyone been out there? Yeah, you have. So this one was a bit of a mission. It was in a car. We had people staying in Bristol. People were coming from I can't remember where else, somewhere north, and we all kind of converged in one place. It was a bit of a mission, but it was absolutely beautiful. And this was the morning view. How cool is that? It was just amazing, absolutely ridiculous. So that was another one, probably one of my favourite ones actually, but a bit of a mission, a little bit further to get to from London. This was last Friday night, Halloween. So I said to myself, right, I'm going to stop, it's getting a bit cold now, probably should give people a little bit of a break. But then special things happen, Halloween, fireworks, and I thought, nah, let's keep going. So I managed to convince a lot of my friends to come and dress up and meet at Epping train station and go and sleep in Epping Forest, which was pretty good. When this guy, Andy, when he walked off the train, and he actually had found a packet of Sugar Puffs on sale, so he had them with him as well. I thought that was quite cool. So we set up some hammocks, and Epping Forest, anyone been to Epping Forest? Yeah, you have, yeah. I didn't even know existed. It's this huge place, and we've been there about 4 times now, and every time I go it's different, and you can put hammocks up in there and everything. Every now and then you do stumble across a homeless person's camp, but that just makes me think it must be a good place to hang out. So this is, so what do you need if you're going on a micro-adventure? So it looks like a lot, but it's not. That's not poo. It looks like poo, isn't it? It's not. That's coffee for the morning. So important things: coffee for the morning, a little stove if you've got one. Doesn't have to be a jet boil, but you don't have to have that. And especially if you're near a train station or something, when you wake up in the morning, it's just nice to have a little bit of coffee and something for breakfast as well. Sleeping bag and a sleeping mat, which you can get to pack down really small, or just take the camping mats that I've got. The most important item, the bivvy. So a lot of people don't know what bivvies are, but basically just a bag that goes over your sleeping bag that keeps you warm and dry, and they're great. And if it does rain, which it's only rained twice in 22 weeks of doing this, we only got rained on twice, which I thought was pretty impressive. You can just pull the bivvy bag over your head and go back to sleep, and it just doesn't matter. All your stuff, because you've got it in a backpack as your pillow, and so everything stays nice and dry. OS maps. I'm such a geek, I've got one with me tonight. I love them. I haven't looked at OS maps since I was a kid, and I just absolutely love them. So I would just highly recommend, if you've got any lying around at home, or that your parents normally have them on a dusty bookshelf, just get them out, and you see things on them that you did not know were there. You know, there's huge expanses of green, slopes and everything, and my favourite thing to do is just to shut my eyes and wiggle and point, and then go, right, I'm going to go there if I've got some time. Don't buy this one, I just found it, I don't really know what it is. That doesn't look like a very good idea. I think that's more of a survival bag. And always take a woolly hat, that is my one top tip. I really want to find out how I get one of them made in human size. But the hat just makes all the difference. I don't know what it is, but it's just something about feeling really snuggly and warm. It's definitely all about the woolly hat. So don't be frightened if you're a first timer as well. This is my little brother here. And that was his face on our first night. And this is a guy called Rich as well on his first night in Essex. So I have not had one person not come back for more, basically. They absolutely love it, because it's just something, it's basically like getting back to being a kid. It's about being curious, you know, restoking all of that stuff that we lost as a child, really. And you get so busy, and I'm just, you know, of course everyone's busy, but it's just amazing. When you take the time, all you need to do is get on that train. As soon as you're on that train, it just happens, like the adventure just unfolds. You meet all these people that you wouldn't have otherwise. You sit around in a big circle and you're passing around all this food, sharing it. You know, the olives go around 4 times because no one likes olives, and the Percy pigs disappear halfway around the circle, always a mystery. But it's just about, you know, the evening just stretches, and I think the thing for me is that the other option for that evening was to go home, probably remind myself how tired I feel, watch something pretty rubbish on telly, and maybe go to bed a little bit too late, and then go back to work the next day, whereas this feels like you've had a weekend in the middle of the week. So I've just found it a really good way to create time where there isn't any, and to just appreciate a little bit more about what's around you and how awesome, you know, this part of Britain is, in fact the whole of Britain. But it's taught me to look closer to home as well. So this was fireworks night, this was on Wednesday night. So I met up with this family called the Meek family, who they've taken their 2 girls out of school for a year, and they're going around the UK in a caravan. And we met up and we watched all the fireworks happen from Richmond Hill. You must all know Richmond Hill, awesome place to watch fireworks from. And then we wandered down into the woods, and this wood here where we all slept, was Peterson Wood, and it was about 15 metres from a place where I run to work every single Tuesday morning. I run past it, and I'd never been in those woods, and that was a reminder for me that it's about looking at places with fresh eyes, and that we could have been anywhere really once we were in there. So I thought that was pretty cool, and then that was amazing sunrise on Thursday morning. One of the final things I want to say is that it doesn't have to be big. So this is a picture that my friend Kenny sent me of him and his little girl Jemima, and they'd gone on a micro-adventure in their back garden, which they called a nano adventure. And I absolutely loved it, because I understand, you know, I'm at a point where I don't have kids and I don't have responsibilities like that, and it is much more difficult, but I even think it doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be massive. They'd just gone and they'd had a few hours in the back garden, and then I think they did it another night and they actually slept out there the whole night. But she had there's a little video of her online, and she just said I'm going on an adventure, and she just had the most wonderful time, and he'd done the same as well. And I think even if you haven't got time or you don't want to sleep out somewhere, just point, like, you know, saying, right, I'm just going to use this time, I'm going to point my finger at a map, don't know what's going to be there, and I'm just going to go there and find out. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. So I highly recommend it, however you can, to just get out and explore what's around you. That's it.